Tonight we have with us at the second full event of the SoCal Media Pros, an institution in and of itself in Orange County, production, location services, stock footage, and other things you may talk, and the Encore directory that's known far and wide between San Diego and Orange County. Liz Ervin, who literally has her 1 foot in production and 1 foot in location searching, and has become a great resource for all sorts of companies doing commercials and dramatic themes in Orange County. Liz Ervin, our institution.
Thank you. My name is Liz. Hi, my name is Liz, and I'm addicted to finding locations. No. I want to thank you all for coming here and taking the time to learn a little bit about locations and location management. I wanted to start out and tell you a little bit about my background even before production. I went to college in New York State at Niagara University, and I was going to be a social worker. Then I moved out here, and I ended up taking some photography and film classes at Orange Coast College and really fell in love with it. And I say film as opposed to video. In those days, in the late 70s, film and video was very distinct. We didn't talk to each other. There were separate departments. There were separate professors. There were separate film festivals. In fact, we kind of bullied each other, I think, until we realized, oh, we can use video playback on films, and then we became a little friendlier. So between taking classes in Orange Coast College and then combined with about the same time, a friend of mine won an Academy Award for scientific and technical achievement. His name is John Lamb, and he invented a animation machine that did stop motion. So technology was really starting to drive the business forward. It was just, there was nothing like that before. So animators could do pencil tests and see immediate results instead of taking their film to a lab and things like that. And one of my jobs at Orange Coast College was bringing the film up to the lab. Everything was so arduous and laborious. We would film in Super 8 or 16. We would film, tell our stories, learn about filmmaking and all that stuff. And I would bring it up to the lab. A week later, I would go pick it up, and then we would actually sit at an editing machine and literally cut and glue it together, send it, make a work print, send it to LA, and everything just took so long. So it's exciting to see where we are now. But I'm thankful for that start where everything was kind of archaic. So at that same time of taking film classes and my friend winning the Academy Award, I had only moved out here about 2 months, and I was walking on the beach, and a man came up to me and asked me if I wanted to be in a film. And I said no, because my dad told me about people like you. Anyway, I didn't believe him. And he said, here's my sound man, and I make surf films, and I work in IMAX and all that stuff. I'm like, okay. So his name was Greg McGilvery. I ended up being in a film called Going Surfing, so I got tickets to the premiere, and then ultimately I started working for that company. And the very first job we did was, it was very exciting. It was an international commercial for jeans. The director was from Spain, who spoke no English. The models were from Canada, and the crew was from Europe, so it was very international and very exciting. But also it was back in those archaic days where after 12 hours of shooting, we would take the film, a production assistant would come with his motorcycle, and he had to get back to, we filmed it out in Glimas, and he had to get back to Kodak by midnight so we could process the film, and then we would send it back the next day, and he would bring back the dailies, and just, it wasn't very glamorous. So I started out as a PA, and that was very fun. I did important things like took the crew to the airport while they flew off to Indonesia and Tahiti and all these exotic sites. So then I was a coordinator, and then I just really had a yearning to freelance. So I decided to quit there, take my chances, and freelance in production. Found a job in a penny saver, which I wouldn't recommend today, but it ended up to be a very big multimedia company. And so we did rock shows and laser shows and film and video and things like that. So it was a good start. So once again, it was very archaic. We would get the lab reports and everything. So in those days, since everything was film, you would have to call Kodak and get your neg report. And often they would say it's fine, and you would go back to your other multitasks. Well, one day I called and they said, can you hold, please? So that is never good. So they said it was in the bath too long. So Kodak only has to pay for the price of film. They have no liability with throwing a very big dream sequence for a commercial. So we had to rebook the talent and rebuild the sets and everything like that. And the talent was in Montana. And I called and I said, we need you back tomorrow with the red shoes that you bought, because you can buy a wardrobe for 50% off. But, so that's one of the problems with film and putting it in the bath and things like that. So how I got into scouting, which is really why we're here, it kind of happened organically. I would work on shoots and people would say, hey, does a friend of yours have a contemporary house facing south with a swimming pool with a baseball field next door and a barn on the left? And so anyway, I was just always able to find crazy things. And then over the years, I would build up my 3x5 pictures, scotch taped ever so carefully to manila envelopes, and they would just be in plastic bins. So over the years, I was able to accumulate a whole lot. And then initially when the internet came along, I thought, I'm going to put this on the internet. But it was before I'd met Grace and before they had Joomla and templates and things like that. And it was $25,000, $30,000. It was prohibitively expensive. So it was nice when technology caught up and I was able to hire Grace and use a template and things like that. So it's a lot easier to get work now that I have a website because it legitimizes you as well. So some of the things I work on, I've been freelancing for 25 years. I work on print. I do a lot of catalog works, billboards, film, video, webisodes, infomercial, and now mobile ads and things like that. So I've really enjoyed freelancing, and in 2009, I had the opportunity when Bravo called me and asked me to be the location manager for Real Housewives of Orange County. Don't judge me. And yes, it is real. We cannot make it up. So they asked me for an interview, and the executive producer said, have you ever watched our show? And I said, it's my dirty little secret. I'd seen every episode of every franchise. I am fascinated by human behavior. So they said, can you start today? So that started 7 years ago. And a typical week, like on a Monday, the story producer will call or email and say, Buffy wants to get her nails done, or Susie wants to go shopping. Surprise, surprise. And I would just call the venues and say, are you in? We'd send them a little letter of intent, get them an insurance certificate for $1 million. People, well, during my interview, I asked the producers, how much do we pay for locations? Because sometimes my houses go between $3,000 and $4,000, and he said nothing. And I almost didn't take the job because I thought it would be so hard. But because of we promised them signage, and you get people see, maybe 2 million people watch the show, and so it's going to expose you to a lot of people if you have a boutique or a restaurant. So it's a very fun and easy job. We signed a very heavy non-disclosure agreement, which says they can sue me, and they would, for $1 million if we give up any secrets. But like I said, everything we shoot is true. So people ask me how I get my clients. I get them from a couple ways. A lot of them I have repeat customers, and they typically come back. Search engine optimization, where they will just Google Orange County film locations or something like that. So I find them that way, or word of mouth. The Film Commission refers me to many, many, many jobs. Or the client may find my website, find a certain house, and email me that ID and say that's the one I want. So it's my job to educate the clients too. So once they express interest, I send them a form for a better shooting experience, and it's about, hold on here. My assistant called in sick today.
This is your backup website.
Yeah. And I can pass this around. This is just for a more enjoyable experience. This is what I expect of the clients. And then I also have one for the homeowner, what I expect of them. Typical things are, I need the sprinklers off, I need your garage emptied, I need the cars off the garage down the street, I need the windows cleaned, I need everyone out of the house, and things like that. So it's just clear to manage your expectations and let everyone, the client and the homeowner, know what you expect. People also ask me how I get my homes. I get them almost the same way I got my clients. Some are hitting up, I started out initially hitting up friends, and then friends of friends, and then families, and then family friends of families. And eventually I ran out, and I started leaving notes. So if a client calls and they want a particular house that I don't have, I make up a flyer, and I can pass this around, and it says, don't want to be a star? Maybe your house does. And it talks about, gives them a little bit of an overview, and it drives them to the website. So I have a pretty good response of leaving notes for people like that. Oh, when I was talking to her before, when I meant to start the talk out this way, when people hear They said, what do you do? And I said, I'm a location scout and a location manager. And every single person, including some people here today said, isn't that fun? Well, by the end of the night, you're going to tell me whether you think it's fun or not. It's challenging. It can be lucrative. It's exciting, but, it's still called work. So after you tell a couple stories, it'll make you enough not to want to get into the business. Another way I get clients is if I'm at an existing shoot, people come out of the woodwork. They want to know what's going on. So it's actually a very organic way. I invite them in the house. They can see the impact. So I get clients from drive-bys and neighbors. Now, how I find houses is I used to just drive around and leave notes. But now, through Google Earth, it's kind of cheating. Someone may call and say, I want a house on the beach with a walkway, with a pool. So I start with Google Earth, and I spend probably a half a day, and I'll look at the whole grid of Orange County if I don't have this existing location. So then, once I identify a large property with a lawn or whatever I need, then I go to Google Street View, and then you can just pretty much see the houses. I also use Airbnb and some of the vacation rental sites because those people are typically, if you're willing to let strangers in your house for vacation, you're probably going to want to use it as a location because typically we pay 10 times as much as a day rate. The house might be $400 for rental, but we'll pay $4,000. But the problem sometimes, and I've had with Google Earth and Google Street recently, is the client will look it up. But Google Street isn't always updated, and they'll freak out. They're going, my God, what are you doing to us? You're killing us. It's not the house we got the permit for. Because obviously Google Earth isn't updated every single day. So you have to be careful of that sometime. And I just got almost in an argument. I wish I could put the text up there. With a client we shot in Newport recently, and we had to have 2,000 cookies on this counter. So we had this huge kitchen counter, and they wanted dark cabinets, not white. A lot of kitchens are white today. So showed him the house on the internet. They didn't go look at it. We signed the contract, and he called me really upset. Well, he had Googled the address, and an old Zillow picture came up, and he was arguing with me that I got him the wrong house. And it took me so long to explain that. Don't look at Zillow, So sometimes you have to be careful with that. So some of the things that I consider when scouting, first of all, the director, creative director, or producer will call me. They'll send me mood boards, or they'll let me know what they want. And sometimes it's a little unrealistic. They'll get these great images off the internet. So it's a starting point. Most directors and creatives they understand that they're not going to get everything they want. So sometimes they're happy with like 80%. So when I go look for a house, I try to match the mood board. And then also you have to consider the suitability for filming. We usually want large rooms, obviously, to move around for equipment. We need multiple rooms. Sometimes you want to do video village, you need a place for wardrobe, you need a place for makeup. The minimum size house you'd probably want is like 2,500 or 3,000. We look for high ceilings, and we look for neutral and contemporary furnishings because often we'll pull from props and use their furnishings, so they don't want something dated or a house that's too crowded. And you also have to consider parking. Sometimes there's zero parking, so you have to find a place to shuttle. I like churches because, one, they need the revenue, and you can get an answer very quickly as opposed to a school system or a corporation. So we often buy churches and just shuttle people. I like cul-de-sacs because there's less looky-loos and drive-bys because sometimes that can be very distracting. And I also ask the homeowners if they have any, I call them problem children, if they have any neighbors that they don't get along with. And believe it or not, it seems like every single person has a problem child next door. I don't know why that is. People just need to get along. You have to consider audio. If there's sound, is there an airport nearby? Is there barking dogs next door? You have to consider what day is garbage day, what day is street cleaning, when do the gardeners come? Is there construction in the area? And if so, you have to call the construction coordinator and get their timeline. And how fast can I get a permit? Maybe they want to shoot in 2 days and Newport wants 7 days, so you have to consider the permit process too. Each city has their own set of rules. Some requires permits for private property, some don't, so it's up to each city. I shoot a lot in Newport Beach, and they have contracted with Film LA, and they are a terrific organization. It's very strict. You just have to have your paperwork in order. They notify neighbors. So the good thing about Film LA, there's no surprises. Once you get on set, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. I actually like them. Some production companies don't because they charge $625, but I just would rather have it all taken care of when you could get on set. And the homeowners are paid depending upon impact. Is it 5 people for a still shoot for 5 hours, or is it 14 hours with 90 people? So the pay is depending upon what the impact is. Okay, so let's say your house is chosen. So now what? I email the homeowner, and I let him know the rate, what the project is, the date, the impact, all that. We kind of negotiate. I'm often given a budget number from the client, so I will say to them, they have $3,000, are you willing to do it? 100% of the time, people basically say yes. You know, I don't deal with bottom feeder clients. They have to have insurance. They have to be legit. You know, I can't find a location for them for $500. We supply them, I request a W-9 from them. Homeowners can rent their home out for, it's either 10 or 12 days a year without any financial impact. They just talk to their tax man. So for some reason, they're able to not have any tax liability on 14 days. So when I first book a job, I just made a little form, so just for myself to help this out. So I just have the list of the production company, their mobile number, their contact, the budget, what location they need, what location they're considering, what location they ended up booking. And it just sounds really easy. So when you see a film now, you're going to just so much goes on behind the scenes. So I have to send a contract to the homeowner, then have it signed by them, countersigned by the client, request insurance, get them insurance, request W-9s. There's an awful lot to do. So it's a lot harder than it looks. So that's my PLS checklist. Also, when you're location managing, you have to consider, as I previously mentioned, parking permits and also police for road closures. There's something called ITC, intermittent road closure. I just did a Mazda shoot and we shut down San Joaquin in Newport, and it takes about a week. It takes a lot of work. You have to give them a plot plan. It goes through the police department and engineering and fire department and all of that. Then you have to hire 4 cops minimum. They start at $63 an hour. So it's quite expensive, but you need it for safety. I've worked on some shoots where it's gotten kind of dicey with the road closure. We had a incident. Our job is not without peril. I've had 2 friends killed in helicopter crashes, one doing running footage. It can be very dangerous out on the road. So when we get road closure, it's very serious. And you have people on walkies and codes like that. I was filming in Modjeska Canyon many years ago, and we had permission. We had cops, and we had a stuntman going really fast down this road, and it was all closed off. We have PAs at every driveway. We have cops at an intersection, and we had permission, and this stuntman was screaming up this road. Well, this impatient motorist decided he was tired of waiting, and he's going to go around the cop right as we're filming. I cannot believe people were not killed. It's one of the scariest things I've ever witnessed. So we're on the walkie going, stop, stop, abort, abort, and it was like, Arr! It was so scary. So the cop goes after the guy, handcuffs him, and takes him to jail, to the delight of the crew. But like I said, just safety is so paramount. People are killed all the time in film production, so we always, every single shoot, you have a safety meeting in the morning, and you're told if you don't feel safe, don't do it, and go to the producer or something like that. So like I said, we're very safety conscious. So I think I'm going to tell you some anecdotal stories which will help you understand the business. I think that best says it. When we go on location, if it's a particularly long day, we promise the crew a hot breakfast, and that's a really big deal to these guys. We have bacon and eggs and sausage and everything you can imagine. So about a year ago, I had this fairly large shoot that I was location managing, and I made a big deal, and I told everyone, come early. It's called RTS, Ready to Serve. So the caterer was to be there at 6 a.m., and we were to shoot at call time at 7. So typically the first day of a large shoot, it's hard to sleep. I get up, and I thought, I'm just going to go and make sure he's set up. And I get there at about 5:30, and there's no sign of him. And I'm trying to relax because I'm very wound up. I thought, just chill, just chill. And about 10 minutes later, I knew something was wrong. So I called the company who had hired this guy, and we had paid him prep day to get all the food. No answer, no answer. So I call her. She tries to get a hold of the guy. She calls me 10 minutes later, and she goes, he's in jail. Okay, and now people are starting to pull up. I'm like, oh my God. See, the job is not fun, is it? Oh my God, I'm surprised I don't look like I'm 80 years old. So I thought, I'm not I'm paid to not complain, just get the job done. They want solutions. They don't want to hear any excuses. And producers and directors don't even know half of what goes on behind the scenes. So I called a production assistant, and I'm going to name names, Richie. And I told him, I said, I'm going to call a Starbucks. I'm going to call in 2 travelers. You're going to go pick them up. And this is the best I can do. And I'm going to call McDonald's, and we're going to get 30 hash browns and 30 burritos. And it'll get people started before I can get the craft service girl getting coffee making stuff. And he was silent. And I said, do you hear me? And he was silent. He goes, yeah, I lost all the petty cash yesterday. Oh, no, this is the good part of the day. It should Isn't your job fun? Yeah. So I'm just like, okay, take a breath. So I call the other PA, Terrence. He's a good one. So he went and got it. And thank God the crews, you become like families. And everyone thought it was funny, thank God. And, no one died. It wasn't a big deal, but it wasn't a great way to start the day. So later on that day, I think it was like Sofia Vergara or someone. She was very, very nice. Asks for one thing all day. Asks for some tea. I'm like, I can do that. I write it down for my friend Richie. He goes to Starbucks to get, I thought he was going to Starbucks to get some tea. 45 minutes later, she goes, where's my tea? I'm like, you didn't get it? And she goes, no. So I call him, no answer, of course. So I call on the walkie, the other PA. You never leave a set without telling locations. He doesn't answer. On the walkie, I'm like, that's odd. So I call him, I go, where the heck? I don't think I used the word heck. I'm like, where the heck are you? And he goes, oh, I had to leave set because I had to get Richie because he ran out of gas. Just like, oh my God. So that was just one day. And then actually a couple days later, I was training a PA and I said, you need to come with me. So on locations, you have to pick up tables, chairs, garbage cans, runners, layout boards to protect the home and things like that. So I wanted to be at the U-Haul at 7. That's when it opened. It's like a house of cards. It's timing. Everything has to go perfectly. So the PA, he was supposed to be at my house at 6:30. He's not there. It's 5 to 7. I call. I go, where are you? He goes, I've been sitting outside the front of your house. I'm like, no, you're not there. So I read my number, my house number, and my address. He goes, yeah, the number's right, but I'm at the wrong street. I'm like, okay, well, here's the right street. So he shows up, just enough to put me 10 minutes behind or 20. We pull up to the U-Haul, and there's this little landscaper. It's a landscaper, and he walks in front of me. I'm like, okay, just learning to relax. So he's in front of me, getting his truck. Oh, let me back up. I called U-Haul. You have to have a lift gate. A lot of this equipment's really, you have a truck with a lift gate. Without a lift gate, it does us no good in production. So when I called, I always sound very neurotic. I'm like, I need a lift gate. He's like, okay, I heard you. I said, no, I really need a lift gate. He goes, I heard you the first time. I said, I'm going to tell you 3 more times, I need a lift gate. He goes, okay. I confirm with national number. I confirm with the local number. I call, I email. Okay, so anyway, the landscaper's in front of me. He's doing all the work. So finally it's my turn, and now I'm a half hour behind. So I said to him, I'm like, yeah, here's my paperwork. And he looks at it and goes, oh, I just gave it to that guy in front of you, the last lift gate. Half the time, I think I'm being punked on these things. I'm like, this cannot be happening. Because if the PA was on time, I would have had it. I said, so why did you give it to him? I have a reservation. He goes, well, you were late. I'm like, well, I'm still here before my pickup time. So he looks at me and goes, well, let me see. Maybe I can get one in Anaheim. But, the camera has to be picked up at 9, and this has to be picked up. I said, never mind. So sometimes you just have to make do. And we didn't have a lift gate that day. Another fun story is I wish I could show you some of the houses. You're going to leave, you're going, oh my God. No, I can't make this stuff up. Okay, this is another fun one. I was shooting in Newport. They're called the Port Streets. I've shot there maybe 50 times before this. So 2 nights before a really huge shoot, 50-person crew, client bought off on it, we did tech scouts. The HOA sends me a letter saying we are no longer entertaining film shoots. I'm like, well, we have this one. I tried to call the board. It just wasn't going to happen. So it was a no. It's like 10 o'clock at night when I get this letter. I'm like, oh my God, once again, I have to solve this problem. So I found out, I emailed the homeowner. I told her, I said, who's the architect of your home? She gave me the architect's name. I just did a Hail Mary. So I emailed the architect. I told him my plight, was really honest. I said, this is what happened. Do you have any other homeowners that would be willing? 10 minutes later, he emails me with names, numbers, and emails. Like, oh my God, there is a God. So that ended up being okay, but it was just stressful until then you had to tell the client that, well, we're not going to use this house, but I have another one. So it's fun, huh? No.
I want to know if Richie still works with you.
No. Because there's some other things that I will not say on camera. He works for other people, and I ran him into a shoot recently. He's big and strong, and everyone loves him. I just had a poor experience, so I saw him on a shoot recently, and I thought, we just have to play nicely in the sandbox together and, move forward. So some of my clients, we do really unique things. One of my client is living spaces. So they're a furniture company. So what we do is once we find the home, we come in and we bring 1 or 2 pods, obviously with the permission of the homeowner. We take every stick of furniture out of the entire house. We're like, they have movers. Then we paint the walls. Sometimes we make a living room into a bedroom, sometimes a bedroom into a living room. I don't know why we never use the room that they're supposed to be, but we paint the walls with the permission of the homeowner, obviously. Then, when we're done with that shot, we move on to another shot as their professional painters paint it back to the original color. So that's kind of interesting to, when you look at a living space catalog, you know that we've probably painted the walls. Another client I have is Smith & Noble. I just shot with them 7 days. They're high-end window coverings company. So we come in and we take every window covering down, and then we put their product up, and we either use existing holes or they use shimmies and Photoshop things out. But sometimes the homeowners don't even recognize their homes. We shot 7 days, and 6 of the days had damage, so I'm still cleaning up. A lot of times just little things happen, and sometimes bigger things happen. We shot in a brand new house they never even lived in, so there's a lot of wall nicks, so he knew we did it. Things were hung properly, so we either get a handyman or they get their own handyman, and we obviously pay for all of the damage. Another fun story, I just had the opportunity to work with some Golden State Warrior basketball players, and some of them had gone to the Olympics, like Klay Thompson. So it was a commercial for a basketball shoe. So they asked me to find a basketball court, but it's going to be an all-night shoot. So I couldn't do it in Orange County because no park is going to allow us to shoot all night. Locations is the first one to get to set and the last one to leave. So my call time was 2 p.m., and I think we wrapped at about 4 a.m. So it was kind of fun. We had lights that I swear you could see from outer space. It was mimicking lightning. It was very, very cool. It was up in San Pedro. So we attracted a lot of attention. The park was supposed to close at 6, but we attracted a lot of attention. So at about midnight, I'm just walking parking lot, probably going to get some more coffee, and these gangbangers pull up. And it's like 4 huge guys. They're all tatted up. I'm like, oh. And he goes, what are you doing? I go, nothing. He goes, are you lying? I went, uh-huh. And he goes, the second one was, he said, is there anyone famous here? I go, no. He goes, are you lying to us? I go, uh-huh. I mean, every time he asked, you lying to us? Yeah, so at least I was honest. But they thought it was really funny, and then they pulled away. But it's exciting sometimes to work with professional athletes or famous people. Another client I have is above-ground swimming pool. So this is very unique. I think it's called Intex. I have to find houses with large backyards, with green lawns, that have an existing in-ground pool. And we heat the pool for 2 days for about $400. Then we take the water out of their pool and put it in this above-ground pool. And then we do a couple different, talent changes or do different swimming pools. Then at the end of the 1 or 2 days, then we put the water back into the pool and take our pool away. So that's kind of interesting. And as I mentioned, we did this Mazda shoot where we did the intermittent road closure. We shot in Newport. I also had to get no parking signs because when you have a shoot, you need to post no parking 72 hours ahead. It's so much work. First you go down, you take pictures, you go to the city, you fill out a permit, and you tell them how many feet you want, this plot plan, exactly what you intend on doing and what's going to go where. Then the police approve it or not. Once they approve it, they make up the physical signs for you, and you pay a couple $100s for that. Then you send a PA to pick up the signs. Then you have to post them, very specific. I think it's 10 feet, and it's a lot of work. And like when you do road closure, it's men working ahead 400 feet. So you have a sheet of all these very specific signs to post. So when you see like a motorhome and a grip truck, it's like it probably took, 4 days of work to get that, to even get permission. And it has a number on there. And if a homeowner isn't happy, they get to call you. So that's fun. And they call me. The shoot was on a Thursday, and this lady's panicking, saying, I want to park there Tuesday night. I'm like, well, if you read the sign, but a lot of people get panicked when they see these no parking signs. So that's another whole thing you have to deal with. And as I mentioned, when we need extra parking, I always go for churches. We did that in Newport. The first one always says yes. Brought a sample of a little location agreement for the church. They got $500 a day, which isn't bad. The church was empty. So we just send him this and insurance, and we're on our way. We needed a base camp because we're doing running footage, and I needed to find a place for the big car carrier, the motorhome, and things like that. Then I have a list of shoots that everything went great, but that's kind of boring. Starbucks, I just did. That went great. I just did a dog food commercial. We put in a fake door. We took off their door and put in a little doggy door. That went great. So as you can see, it's challenging, it's interesting, and it can be lucrative and stressful, but I guess it might be a little bit of fun. Sometimes. But every client is different, every crew is different, every location, every day is different, which I find really exciting. So it's kind of a segue into, with technology, I do a lot of testimonial shoots where they're really long, and people come in and they do testimonials for infomercials about using maybe a skincare product, so I have to find large bathrooms. But these shoots and they fly in people from all around the country. These shoots tend to be very expensive, and they get long, and things are noisy, and you have helicopters and things. So one day I thought there's got to be a better way. So I came up with this new company we're probably going to launch in a week or two. It's digital backgrounds. So people can marry their green screen interviews. So let's say if you're in Florida and they don't want to fly you out here, they can just send you to a green screen studio. Then they can buy one of these backgrounds and then marry the images.
Are they still back?
They're motion. We always have motion in it, whether it's a swimming pool or a water feature or a curtain blowing or a candle. And we realize that some are still, and we'll probably just charge 50% for that if there's no motion. But now we're going to make sure, as we move forward, that every picture has motion in it. Otherwise, people might as well just buy a still. But they're done in 4K, so they're really good. So we're going to probably launch this next week to kind of move into the future and hopefully not to have to be on sets all the time.
How about angles for a room? Do you have 2 or 3 angles in a room?
And we do different focal lengths as well, depending upon if the person is sitting there or back there. So we have some soft focuses, and also you can play with that in post-production. So does anyone have any questions?
So,
Okay.
How much
Yes?
do you think, I have 2 questions. How much are you thinking about the cost for the digital background?
If you buy only one,
repeat the question.
oh,
Oh, yeah,
she asked how much. You're so compliant. She asked how much we're charging for these digital. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think it's $2,900 for the first one, and then it goes down $1,000 if you buy them all, each one.
Okay. My second question is via Belize.
You know what? It's so great. You could just. People have the greatest film commission, so they would have a very effective film commission, as most countries do, and counties and states. So I would just Google Belize Film Commission, and most commissions have free databases. Orange County doesn't. They just haven't, so Janice refers everyone to me, which is great. But, yeah, they would be able to help you.
Okay, great, thanks.
You sign a location.
Okay, Art asked how much involvement I have once we sign the contract. And that is a good question. I have site reps, and then I have a lot of clients who I really like, and they have become friends, and I will go site rep them for, I charge them for X amount for 10 hours. So you have to have a site rep on every single location, otherwise production company, they go wild anyway, just opening the cupboards and using things. So I really have to be there, and I'm representing the homeowner. So I never walk away. Like right now, like I said, I'm still cleaning up some damage and some messes. It just, you take it from, from the initial contact till when any damage has been paid, and it's so I'm there to the very, very end.
So the follow-up to that is to do that today.
Correct. Art was asking what involvement do I have, once I'm on the shoot, because I'm a boutique agency really, and that's what a lot of the LA companies like. I'm easy to deal with. I am the site rep because it's my company, as you said, and I care. So that's why I do like going on these shoots. So I go on probably 60-70% of them, but as time goes on, I'll probably be going on less and less. But as a business owner, I want to be there and to carry it through. But I have 2 or 3 really good site reps right now that I feel confident in using.
Location?
No, and that's he had asked if Orange County has a cohesive permit process. And that's a great question, and that's something I think you and we tried 15 years ago. And what happened was we ran into Orange County, at that point I think was 26 entities, and now it's 29 or 32. No one wanted to cooperate because Cyprus didn't want to do what Newport wanted. So, risk managers didn't want to hop on board. So we tried so much to get a blanket permit from Orange County, and it didn't work. So Film LA has been contracted only by the city of Newport Beach. I think it's the only city in Orange County that uses them. And they just take they take care of everything. It used to be one gentleman who was awesome, and I just think that they wanted, I don't know, they just wanted Film LA to take care of everything.
Mayor,
I mainly cover Orange County, probably 90% of my locations. I do have people organically saying I own a property in LA, I have one in San Diego, so I have some farms in Riverside and a couple things in Fallbrook and a couple in LA, but there's so many terrific companies in LA, I don't want to compete with them. I like to stick with my niche in Orange County and just service the people down here. But most of my business, the companies come down from LA to shoot in Orange County because they love staying in Laguna. I tell them it's hotels. It's just a lot, it's fun for them to get out of town. And believe it or not, many of the crew members have never been to Orange County before. I know, I'm just amazed. They're like, oh.
They're doing 16, 18-hour days.
That's true. It is true. So they have long hours, but they're starting to come down.
Why do they build a wall?
Can't comment on being taped, yeah. Yes. I have the craziest house ever. It looks, I have never taken LSD, but if you did, this is what, I can't even describe it in words, and I wish I had a picture of it, but I did have a call if someone wanted some just crazy kind of dream sequence, and we use this house. But a lot of them are unusual in that they're so specific, like I said, it has to face a certain direction, and the circular driveway, and no stucco, and no palm trees, and just, it's almost like everyone is unusual, in a way. Because I was telling her before this started, sometimes I don't understand, but it's not up to me what they pick. I'll show them things, and I'm sometimes surprised. I was telling her, for instance, some director insisted that we needed a tutor in Pasadena, south-facing with a pool. I don't know if his girlfriend lives up there or why. I saw the commercial, and it's like a flat. It's just a corner. So sometimes I don't understand their decisions, but it must mean that, I don't have all the information that they have. That's the way I look at it. Yes. I don't know because I got there, and it's as lovely as it is, I'm not sure, because most of my stuff is interior residential. So it's more like it's a venue, in a way. I see it as a venue. So I've never had a need, but I went and photographed it, and it's on my site, and I think it's great. So I'm not sure what we would use it for. Well, sometimes I don't find things, like they want a waterfall. It's like, people always want waterfalls and rivers in Orange County. Just like, you're not going to find one. So I don't know what the most unusual was.
have you ever trained anybody to work with you as an assistant?
I have. I'm doing that as we speak. And it's funny because I brought this guy, Rob, and he's been site repping, and people really like him. And I brought him recently to the city of Newport Beach to watch how we get this road closure permit and the parking sign. And he could not. He started laughing. He's like, oh, my God. We were standing in line with some architects trying to get plan approval. And I should have taken a picture, but there was paperwork like this this high. And he came over to me, he goes, what's going on? I go, there's our paperwork. And I was just kidding. He's like, oh, my God. Because it was like 40,000 pieces of paper. And sometimes that's what it takes. And it's very fun when a job is done. I swear to God, I hear the Hallelujah chorus. And I shred everything because it's on my computer. Not that I don't love my clients, but so many times it's Hallelujah. I had a Hallelujah. This was a crazy crowd out of New York. They had interesting, they like to do interesting activities, and I'll just leave it at that. And I was the only one that cared, and I'm trying to call them, and everyone's drinking in a jacuzzi, and they're all night party. And one of the first questions when I was hired, I was hired to manage it, and I'm like, well, who's going to do lunch? And when people say my friend, let me translate. Oh, my God, it is never going to work. Like clients often say, we've got the location. Oh, okay, let me translate. We don't have it, okay? So this lady said her friend's going to do the catering. We had 30 people, 35. It was a commercial for Genentech. Unfortunately, it was a cancer drug for people basically end of life, and it was very sad. We had all ages, real testimonials, so it was a very delicate situation. So her friend, the caterer, came for 30 people, and everything's prepped. You just bring it, and you warm it up, and you serve it. And so lunch was supposed to be RTS, ready to serve at 1. 12:30, I go down. There is a hot plate, and she is sizzling one piece of chicken. I'm like, oh my God, I am being punked again. I'm like, what's going on? She goes, yeah, I'm starting lunch. Okay, and incidentally, these people are dying of cancer, and she has a sterno right next to a bunch of chemicals in the garage. I thought cancer is the least of their problem today. I probably should have called the fire department on these people. It was really bad. So then I probably said, what the heck are you doing? But didn't use the word heck. I said, I have to feed people, like 30 people now in 28 minutes. So I gave her a bunch of money and I made her go down to KFC and buy stuff. So then the next day, I'm like, you might want to get started a little earlier, maybe make it the day before. We have what's called Video Village, where the client is sitting like John with headphones and they're watching the takes and things like that. All of a sudden I hear this sound I don't really recognize. I'm like, what the heck? Didn't use the word heck. What the heck is that? I go in there, she's friggin' sizzling. She's using the pots and pans and she's cooking in the kitchen. I'd never seen that before in my life. So I would never work for that company again because they were bad so many ways. And I'm pretty tolerant of some behavior, so believe me when I say they were bad.
Sounds like another story there.
Yeah, I'll tell you when the camera's off. I think you can kind of guess. It wasn't pretty. Okay, any G-rated questions? Okay. Most people, Grace asked what the difference is and where scouting starts and stops and location managing start and stop. A lot of my clients hire me for both because they know that I know the property and the homeowners and things like that. Sometimes, this was interesting, this was a fun one, this was for another automotive company. They hired me to do running footage, find roads and houses and interesting garages, and I worked for 4 days, and then they called and they said, we found great houses up in Santa Barbara. So that was kind of fun, to do the job for 4 days and get paid and then not have to carry it through. I thought, God, I wish I could get more of those. But I don't know how that would work. So I usually do both, but yeah, they're very distinct, the scout, because in LA it's just very distinct scouting and managing, but I do both. And I don't scout as much as I used to. I mean, I did the basketball court recently because it was a friend, and the famous people made it interesting, but I don't scout as much, which is why I started the site.
Well, the site is really pre-scouting, isn't it?
Exactly. They will send me links, or a client will call, and there's about probably 300 locations, so it's an awful lot to look through. Maybe you don't know what architectural style you want. Maybe you thought you wanted Spanish, but then you see a Mediterranean. So often, this is very typical. They'll call me and they'll tell me what they want. I want a big kitchen with an island. I want 3 bedrooms with a swimming pool. So I go through, I know all of my locations, obviously, so I just send them links. And then they'll pick a couple. Let's say if I send them 10, they may pick 4 to look at, and then they'll pick 1. So they kind of cull it down.
Tell us the website you're talking about.
Oh, it's pacificlocationsearch.com. Thank you. Well, right now there's not a lot of competition. Actually, I don't know of any, but I don't want to be cavalier because it's good to think someone's nipping at your heels. But right now there's no other location service. There's some event companies, but I don't know of another location service. There might be 1 or 2 small ones, but I'm not aware, but I want to keep on my, pretend that there's 10 other people competing with me so I don't become lackadaisical.
Do you see filming going up?
Yes, it is so busy right now. As I mentioned before, so many from LA, once they discover it, they would rather shoot down here. It's safer. We can park trucks on the street overnight, which the crews from LA cannot believe it. But I'll just ask a homeowner, like in Laguna Hills, they have these wide streets in Nelligale. I say to the homeowner, we'll give you $50 extra to park the big truck out front, and they say yes. In LA, there's no way you could park a truck out front. Not only can you not legally, but it probably it might be broken into. So people are really discovering Orange County.
And so you don't have to worry about the 30-mile barrier or whatever it is?
Sometimes all my stuff is non-union because I'm not in the union. Yeah.
What is the union?
The locations, I don't know what the number is, but there is a location scouting and a location management union. But I just never joined, and all my stuff's non-union down here.
Repeat the question.
Art asked if I work with both ad agencies and production companies, and is one easier to work with than the other. I actually like production companies. I have a better bond with them because we're all in the trenches together, and sometimes agencies are just, they want so much, which is our job to give it to them, but I like being in the trenches with just production companies. There's some terrific local ones that I really developed nice relationships with, which they call me all the time. So I probably have about 7 to 9 shoot days a month, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is, because the days are 12, 14 hours.
Do you still market yourself to those production companies?
I haven't done market. Well, what I did was we had Grace did such a great job on my site, and it actually started at one of these meetings. I hadn't seen Grace in a while. I think it was about 5 years ago.
4, I just looked.
That was it. It really has taken off because I had enough work, but then Grace suggested, she said, you know, there's these templates now in Joomla, and I can throw the site together, and we worked, and she did a really great job, and then we did search engine optimization. It's really, really, really busy, so that's good. I can't believe it's,
Looking for property.
I'm always looking for properties.
So, what, about 10, 15 new ones a month, something like that?
I send them to Grace. I'm just tireless. Like, I'll be at a party and go, oh, what's your house like? Like, I'll give you all my cards, and I'll be in the grocery store like, hey, what's your house look like? No, I'm shameless. I really am. So I'm constantly looking for new locations. And as Grace said, I'll probably do 15 a month, whether they find me through search engine optimization or knocking on doors, friends of friends. I go shoot them. I send them to Grace. She resizes them, puts a watermark on them, and uploads them. And then I send a nice thank you letter to the homeowner saying, here's your link. And it's free to be listed on my site. So there's no downside. You're insured, and you get free exposure. And then they get 3,000 or 4,000. And then my business model is unique. In LA, they charge one fee, and the location service gives the homeowner a percentage. But I do it differently. So I let them take 100% of the money, and then I charge like a day fee for, scouting it.
Back to the homeowner?
No, he gets a separate fee, and then I get a separate check. But I don't want to take anything at 20%. So sometimes, I just work with clients who can afford it.
I think you have about 400 properties
I think
on
so.
the site.
But it's funny, it's probably 20% of them are probably 80% of my work. The contemporary, I have some really great ones like in the last couple months. So, yeah, I'd say 20% of them get most of the work.
Is it mostly commercials, or do you have?
No, I've been doing a lot of print lately, which I wish I knew about the print world about 40 years ago. It's so much easier. The call times are 8 and 9 o'clock instead of like 6 and 7 in the morning. It's a 10-hour day instead of 14 because you don't have audio. A lot of times you might not have talent if we do product shot, like I'm shooting door quick set locks next week. So I'm really enjoying print. I mean, video is wonderful and it pays the bills, but print now is starting to be probably 20 to 25% of my work. And now there's mobile ads and, with all the different technology and outlets today, there's so much more content that people need. So that's good for production. I think it is busier, but once in a while I'll talk to people and they say they're not busy. I'm like, oh my gosh. But we're a small community. I tend to see the same people on every shoot. There's the A, B, and C teams, and they're all top notch. I see the same wardrobe people and the same makeup people. And as you guys know, we're like a small family. So if someone tries to pull something, I mean, we really stick together. We've seen people have babies, get divorces. We've had deaths among friends, and it's like a big family. And I just think that there's an uptick. I don't know particularly if it's ad agencies or production companies, but I just feel it's busy. But that's just from my perspective. Some people aren't busy.
Well, Liz, thank you very much for a very exciting program that you gave us. I think everybody here enjoyed it, and we are so pleased that you came and spent some time with us.